I just want to say how very sorry I am for...
She should be locked up until she tells us what happened.
The truth is that I want an answer just as bad as all of you.
We're talking about 17 kids in one classroom. I want to know what happened in that classroom. Why just her classroom? Why only her?
There are our children.
I love those kids.
The movie begins. 2 years earlier in Maybrook, a teacher named Justine entered her classroom to find it completely empty, except for one student, Alex Lilly. The night before, at exactly 2:17 a.m., her other 17 students had all left their homes at the same time, running into the darkness with their arms stretched out. Security cameras caught the eerie scene, but there was no trace of anyone leading them away. Police repeatedly questioned both Justine and Alex, but neither could offer any explanation. The school was shut down for a full month, while authorities conducted multiple searches that turned up nothing. When the school finally reopened, the community gathered for a meeting led by Principal Marcus. The crowd turned hostile, blaming Justine for the students' disappearance and accusing her of somehow causing it. Justine insisted she cared for her students, but the parents only shouted louder. Marcus defended her, prompting the parents to accuse him of being complicit. A detective eventually escorted Justine out for her own safety. Later, she stopped by a store to buy liquor, something she'd been relying on heavily since the incident. There, she received an anonymous call from a distorted voice threatening her, prompting her to hang up immediately. As she left, a man named James, visibly struggling with addiction, asked her for spare change, but she ignored him. That night, Justine heard her doorbell ring. Too afraid to open the door, she looked through the peephole but saw no one. Then came a loud knock. When she finally stepped outside, she found the word witch painted across her car. The next morning, she tried to wash off the graffiti but failed, forcing her to drive to school with the insult still visible. Marcus placed her on leave and urged her to focus on her mental health. He told her Alex had been transferred to another class and was adjusting well. When Justine asked to see him, Marcus refused, citing her history of crossing professional boundaries, like hugging a crying student or driving one home after they missed the bus. Frustrated and humiliated, Justine broke down in her car. Later, she filed a police report about the vandalism and the threatening calls. At the station, she ran into her ex-boyfriend, Paul, leading to an awkward exchange. That evening, they met again at a bar. Paul expressed concern for her well-being, but Justine insisted she could manage. He also revealed that his marriage had ended. The night ended with the two of them returning to her home, where things turned physical. The next morning, Justine drives Paul home and complains that the police aren't doing enough to solve the case. Later, she parks near the school and waits for the bus to drop off the students. When Alex arrives, she follows him to his house. Justine knocks on the door and rings the bell, but no one responds. All the windows are covered with newspapers, which raises her suspicion. She enters through the backyard and finds a small gap in one of the window coverings. Peeking inside, she spots two people sitting motionless on the couch. Startled, she steps back and trips over some objects, but the noise doesn't alert anyone inside. Looking again, she realizes the still figures are Alex's parents. Disturbed, Justine calls Marcus to report what she saw. Instead of taking her seriously, Marcus scolds her for following Alex and invading his privacy. At a grocery store later that day, Justine is attacked by Paul's wife, Donna, who accuses her of being with Paul the night before. Justine tries to defend herself, but Donna douses her with alcohol and continues shouting until the clerk pulls her away. That night, Justine dreams she's back in her classroom. All the students have their faces down on their desks. When Alex lifts his head, his face is painted like a clown, and he stares at her with a sinister smile. Justine wakes up suddenly, hearing noises in her house. Looking around, she finds nothing, until she sees a pale, red-haired woman clinging to the ceiling. The woman vanishes in an instant. The next day, Justine waits for Alex after school. When she asks if he's okay, he says yes and walks away quickly. When she tries to follow, Alex yells at her and runs inside his home. Justine repeatedly knocks and rings the doorbell, but no one answers. Later, she parks outside and waits in her car for hours, eventually falling asleep. As night falls, someone quietly approaches her vehicle and cuts a lock of her hair while she sleeps. Archer has been struggling with depression since his son's disappearance and spends his nights rewatching the security footage. His mental state affects his job, causing repeated mistakes and lack of focus. He frequently visits the police station for updates, but Captain Locke reminds him that there are still no new leads. Archer insists that Justine knows something, though Detective Loach argues there's no evidence linking her to the incident. During the town meeting, Archer's among the parents who publicly insult Justine, and later he's revealed to be the one who vandalized her car. His grief deepens, and he begins sleeping in his son's room every night. One night, he wakes up suddenly and realizes he's dreaming when he sees himself still lying in bed. Following a strange noise, he watches the front door open by itself and runs outside, spotting his son in the distance. Archer chases after him, but after passing through the bushes, he finds himself back at his own home. As his son enters the house, a massive weapon-shaped object appears above the roof with the number 217 glowing on it. Archer returns to the bedroom and finds his son asleep in bed. Overcome with regret, he apologizes for not being a more affectionate father, but the boy's face morphs into the red-haired woman, jolting Archer awake. The next morning, he spots a tower in the woods and begins to connect the dots. Using a map, he draws a line from his house toward the direction Alex ran. Then he visits other parents of missing children to review their security footage. One refuses, but another agrees. Archer tracks the direction each child ran and marks them on his map. The lines converge at a single point, which he believes holds the answer. On his way there, Archer sees Justine at a gas station and stops to confront her. Suddenly, they notice Principal Marcus nearby, running with blood on his face and his arms stretched out like the missing kids. He tackles Justine to the ground and tries to choke her. Archer rushes to help, but Marcus overpowers him. Justine manages to escape and hides inside the store, while Marcus follows. Archer kicks Marcus off balance, but Marcus retaliates and begins strangling him too. A few days earlier, Paul was on patrol when he spotted James acting suspiciously near a house. He followed him and caught him trying to break in. When Paul confronted him, James ran, leading to a chase. Paul pursued him in his car until the road narrowed, forcing him to continue on foot. He tackled James and handcuffed him, as James claimed he was only trying to get into his own home after losing his keys. While searching his pockets, Paul accidentally pricked his finger on a used needle. Enraged, he punched James and then rushed to his car for the first aid kit, realizing too late that his dash cam had recorded everything. Paul, feeling desperate, decides to free James and tells him they're now even, warning him to leave town immediately. Later at the station, Loach reassures Paul that as long as James doesn't report the incident, he'll be fine. That night, Paul goes on a date with Justine. When he returns home the next morning, he's surprised to find Donna back earlier than expected. His nervous behavior makes it clear to her what happened while she was away. Later at work, Paul spots James outside the police station and confronts him. James flees, and Paul chases after him, making sure to disconnect his dash cam before doing so. Rewinding to earlier events, James is shown living in a tent deep in the woods, battling addiction. Whenever he runs out of substances, he sneaks into town to check parked cars for unlocked doors and steals anything he can find, selling the items for quick cash. The night Paul saw him, James was attempting to break into a house to steal valuables, exactly as Paul suspected. Days later, James notices that the Lilly residence looks abandoned. The windows are covered, and piles of uncollected mail lie scattered around. Assuming the place is empty, he climbs the wall and enters through a window, finding himself in a dusty room filled with furniture. In the living room, he's startled to see Alex's parents sitting motionless on the couch, their faces covered in scars. They don't react even when he gets close, so he continues stealing valuables. A noise from upstairs catches his attention, but he ignores it and focuses on collecting items. As he prepares to leave, a faint voice calls from the basement. Curious, James goes down and is horrified to find all the missing children standing silently in the dark. They slowly turn their heads toward him at the same time, sending him into panic. James bolts upstairs, uses furniture to block the basement door, and watches in terror as Alex's parents rise and begin moving toward him. He sprints out of the house and escapes. At a pawn shop, James sells the stolen items and notices a poster offering a large reward for information about the missing children. After spending his cash to buy more of his substance, He decides to call the police and report what he saw. The officer on the line sounds doubtful but tells James to come to the station. When James arrives, Paul spots him outside and yells, prompting James to panic and run into the forest. There he's shocked to see the same red-haired woman standing in the distance, waving at him. Terrified, he rushes to his tent to hide. James hears movement outside his tent and sees a shadow approach. Thinking it's a threat, he attacks it with his needles. The figure turns out to be Paul, who drags James out and points his gun at him. Panicking, James blurts out that he knows where the missing kids are. Following James' directions, Paul drives to the Lilly residence. From the car, James watches as Paul rings the bell and someone opens the door, letting him inside. Hours later, after night has fallen, Paul emerges from the house acting strange and unresponsive. He storms toward the car, drags James out, and begins growling like an animal. James screams for help, but no one hears him as Paul pulls him back into the house. Rewinding to earlier events, Marcus receives a call from Justine, who tells him what she saw at Alex's home. Marcus promises to look into it and plans to meet with Alex's parents. However, on the scheduled day, it's a red-haired woman, Alex's aunt Gladys, who arrives instead. She explains that Alex's parents are ill and unable to meet. Marcus informs her that due to a welfare complaint, he must speak directly with Alex's legal guardians or escalate the issue to authorities. The next day, Gladys visits Marcus at his home. She asks for water but insists it be served in a bowl. While speaking, she questions whether Marcus has contacted the authorities. After he says no, she takes out a ribbon stolen from his office and ties it around a strange branch, smearing her own blood on it. When Marcus's husband, Terry, approaches to help with her injury, Gladys suddenly cuts a lock of his hair. Marcus reaches for his phone to call the police, but Gladys rings a small bell, placing him in a trance. His body begins to shake violently as she wraps Terry's hair around the bloodied stick and snaps it in half. Instantly, Marcus attacks Terry, strangling him while vomiting a thick black liquid onto his face. He then repeatedly smashes his head until Terry expires. Gladys stops him only after she drops the branch into the bowl. She then replaces Terry's hair on the branch with a lock of Justine's and breaks it again, commanding Marcus to hunt her down. At the gas station, Marcus finds Justine and Archer. He knocks Archer down and chases Justine inside the store. She tries to hide in the employee room, but it's locked, leaving her cornered. Archer recovers and tackles Marcus into a refrigerator, allowing Justine to run to her car. Marcus smashes a window trying to reach her, but she drives off. Marcus runs after the car as Archer gives chase in his own vehicle. The pursuit ends abruptly when another driver hits Marcus, running him over. The impact leaves his head crushed on the road, and the horrified driver screams at the sight. At the hospital, Archer gives the police a full account of what happened. When he leaves, he finds Justine waiting to thank him for saving her. After seeing what Marcus became, Archer no longer believes she's responsible. He explains that Marcus was running the same way the missing kids did and shows her a map. Justine immediately recognizes the marked location. It's Alex's house. The scene then shifts to a time before the disappearances. Alex is shown as a shy, isolated boy who is frequently bullied at school for being different. His parents are kind and loving, and one evening they tell him that his aunt Gladys will be staying with them because she's unwell. Gladys arrives late at night. The next morning, Alex peeks into her room and spots a red wig and a small tree made of twisted branches. When he realizes Gladys is awake and staring back at him, he quickly shuts the door. After school, Alex waits for his parents to pick him up, but no one arrives, so he walks home. Inside, he finds his parents seated at the table, motionless and emotionless, speaking in flat, robotic tones. A now healthy-looking Gladys greets him and insists his parents are fine. Frightened, Alex throws water at his father's face, but it has no effect. Gladys scolds him and sends him to his room without dinner. The next morning, Alex finds his parents still seated at the table, their eyes red and lifeless. Gladys warns him not to tell anyone she's there or mention that his parents are resting. To make her point, she breaks a branch over a bowl of water, causing Alex's parents to grab forks and repeatedly stab their own faces. They stop only when she drops the branch into the bowl. She warns Alex that if he disobeys, worse things will happen. Days later, Alex notices Gladys has moved all the furniture into his parents' room and now spends her days sitting on the floor, performing strange rituals. He's forced to prepare soup and feed his parents, who remain unresponsive. This becomes his daily routine: school, groceries, and caring for his frozen family. One night, Gladys calls him into her room. She looks weak and sick, vomiting into a pot. She tells Alex that his parents had been keeping her alive, but their energy is no longer enough. To heal, she needs Alex to bring her something personal from each of his classmates. The next morning, while the other students are in gym class, Alex sneaks into the classroom and steals the name tags from their storage bins. Justine catches him, but believes his excuse that he just forgot something. Concerned, she notes that he's been unusually quiet and tries to check in on him, but Alex insists he's fine. Later that day, he drops the name tags outside Gladys's door. Late at night, Alex wakes up after hearing strange noises downstairs. When he goes to investigate, he finds Gladys performing a ritual. She breaks the stolen name tags into a bowl, spits into it, lights a match, and rings a bell. At that exact moment, all of Alex's classmates leave their homes and walk through the night to his house. When the investigation starts, Gladys disguises Alex's father by applying makeup to his face. During questioning, she tells the police that he suffered a stroke and can't speak, claiming she's caring for the family. Anticipating a house inspection, she forces Alex to clean the home and remove the newspaper from the windows. She then cuts the children's hair and performs another ritual, casting a spell to make them hide in the forest temporarily. Alex is tasked with feeding both the entranced kids and his unresponsive parents. One afternoon, Alex returns from school and sees a police car parked outside. Inside the house, he spots Paul and James standing motionless in the living room. Frightened, he runs upstairs where Gladys blocks his path and tells him they'll be leaving town the next day. She warns him never to cross the salt line by her door, which his parents now guard. Moments later, Justine and Archer arrive outside and notice the front door opening. Paul steps out, waves at them, and calmly walks back inside. Suspicious, they follow him, unaware that Alex is watching from his bedroom window. Inside, Paul gestures for them to enter, and when Justine steps forward, she accidentally crosses a salt line. Suddenly, James attacks Archer, who fights back but realizes his blows have no effect. Paul lunges at Justine, forcing her to retreat into the kitchen. She throws a pan at him, but he shrugs it off and leaps over the table to grab her. Desperate, she slashes his face with a peeler, but even that doesn't stop him as he tightens his grip around her throat. Upstairs, Alex ignores the chaos below and crosses the salt line, breaking Gladys's control. His parents immediately unfreeze and charge toward him. He locks himself in his room, but they smash through the door. Alex escapes through the adjoining bathroom and runs to Gladys's bedroom. Hearing his parents break through another door, he quickly grabs a branch from her ritual tree and hides in the private bathroom. There, he cuts his palm and smears blood on the branch. Meanwhile, Archer continues to fight James, but every injury James takes heals instantly. James tackles Archer through a basement door, exposing dozens of entranced children standing below. Justine grabs Paul's gun and shoots him in the neck, but instead of blood, a black liquid seeps out. When he keeps advancing, she shoots him in the head, finally stopping him. She rushes to the basement and shoots James as well. Archer frantically searches among the children for his missing son, but before he can react, Gladys attacks him and rips a necklace from his neck. Possessed, Archer turns on Justine and starts choking her while Gladys watches in satisfaction. Upstairs, Alex takes a strand from Gladys's wig, wraps it around the blood-stained branch, and snaps it in half. The children suddenly rush out of the basement and chase after Gladys, who flees from the house. As she runs through a neighbor's property, the children smash through windows and doors in pursuit. Neighbors watch in disbelief as Gladys races through the neighborhood with a swarm of children chasing her, tearing through fences and shattering glass along the way. One of the girls eventually tackles Gladys to the ground, and the rest of the children pile onto her, exterminating her by tearing her apart. Her expiration breaks the curse, freeing Archer and Alex's parents from her control. Justine heads upstairs and finds Alex embracing his now conscious parents. Archer follows the chaos outside until he finds his son safe. Afterward, Alex's parents are sent to a psychiatric facility for recovery, while Alex moves in with his compassionate aunt. The other children return to their families, though many remain silent for a long time before they begin to speak again. Make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you're the first to know when we drop more videos like this. Thanks for watching.